Hey there gardeners, Chris from Steading here today. I want to talk about this little quite cool success story in my mind that I've had with this plant. It is a red center finger lime, but what I'm actually talking about is this little garden surround which I bodged up from one of these big, long 10-meter garden surrounds. They are a bit on the pricey side. So this one here that I've got in my hand, it's a Tuscan Path corrugated metal edging, 10 meters by 75 mil. So the 75 mil is that height there. And basically what I wanted was a way of separating the planting of this plant in basically a lawn that will make it very, very easy for me to mow, because mowing around here, the area extends a bit further. It does tend to be a decent sized job. And I wanted to put these in somewhere I can keep a really close eye on them and water them as needed, and obviously have a nice little exclusion zone around the plant itself without just getting rid of all of the lawn. So with this one here, red center lime, it has a little bit of mulch around it. It's due for some more mulch and a bit more fertilizer. Having the surround has meant that the grass there's been a little bit of grass getting under it, but I've been keeping an eye on it and just pulling it out as I've seen it only a couple of times in a couple of months. And yeah, the surround has actually meant that the fertilizer that I put on this plant has really helped the plant, but it hasn't had the grass absolutely overtaking, because that is quite a problem. There's actually, I've just noticed some little finger limes on this. These do not like their roots being disturbed, and from what I understand, they have quite a shallow root system as well. So it's a bit of an issue. I think that's quite common with citrus in general, and obviously these are a type of citrus. So you don't want to have to be digging the grass out from around them, which is what I'm gonna have to do on the other plant, because when I put this one in, I gave this a go. I spent the time, I did it, I got a bit distracted and didn't do the other one. And as a result, this one's looking amazing, and we'll go over to the other plant and I'll just give you a look at how things can not go so well. The only other thing you'll need apart from the edging itself is some pegs to hold it into the ground. One of the things with this edging, it's got a folded edge front and top. It is corroding a little bit there, which is a little bit of a shame. I think again it was 35 bucks for 10 meters, which if you're using that for 2 plants, it makes it a little bit easier to bear, or maybe 3 if you're doing quite a small surround. There's quite a bit of overlap on this one. I did cut the first one in half with a little handsaw. It was not something I'd recommend. Some tin snips or an angle grinder would be much, much easier. And then I'd just do what I did. I bent that sharp edge back on itself in a way like the way they've got the folded edges on it. Because it's folded edges top and bottom, you can't really hammer it into the ground, and I'm not sure if it'd be strong enough to do that anyway. So that is a bit of a shame. I was hoping I might be able to do that, because in some ground, if it's not super hard, you'd probably be able to really hammer it in a good depth without, just saving a little bit of effort. But instead, I dug this out, I got it in place, I put the pegs in. It's been there a couple of months, the plant's doing well. I'm really, really happy. And so what I need to do now today is get the other half of the surround around my other finger lime. Okay, so the not so successful story. I mean, the plant is doing okay. This is just a regular finger lime. It was a fairly expensive finger lime. They don't tend to be that cheap. And I will have a video very soon about basically picking one up for a reasonable price and getting started. But looking at this one, it was say a $55 plant. I actually dug it in very similarly to that one over there. I've put the stakes in for this to try and hold it up. It was a very straggly bush with lots and lots of little branches off it, which is probably not the best, but I've got it kind of strung up here. And unfortunately, because I couldn't get the mower in, you can see it's absolutely overgrown. And I have come through a couple of times and chopped this back by hand with my little hand clippers. But the problem you see is that it's been absolutely overgrown by the grass, and particularly putting some citrus fertilizer in to really give it the best chance possible. I haven't had a great result as far as the grass side of things. And as I was saying with the other plant, because it's a citrus with quite shallow roots, with me pulling out all this grass, it's probably going to do a bit of damage to the plant, which is not ideal. which we want to avoid as much as possible. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to replicate what I did on the other plant, because I'm actually going to be putting a couple more in a little bit further back there, and I'm going to use the same strategy. I'm going to get rid of all this grass. I'm going to dig it out a little bit, or I might just weed it by hand depending how I go. I will probably use the mattock to dig in my garden surround and just get it a little bit deeper into the ground, and that'll keep all this grass out. And then ideally, by doing that now, I'm not going to have this as a problem in the future, which will mean that I'll just be able to focus on keeping a good amount of fertilizer on the finger lime, a little bit of mulch as well to help keep the moisture in. And also when I'm watering this plant in particular, it makes it so that it's a very kind of concentrated use of the water, just where it's needed. I'm not wasting it on all this grass, and it's not having all its nutrients stolen away by the grass either. The one thing I will say is that with the finger limes, from what I've seen, they do get recommended as being a full sun kind of plant, but actually I've found they're natively an underbrush or an understory kind of plant, and so they do benefit from having a bit of protection. These here get really no protection at all. I think the morning sun is maybe just protected, but they get all the afternoon sun, so this is a pretty exposed spot, lots and lots of sun. But having the grass growing around them, if you've got a really small plant, it might actually help protect the plant itself, but it's not ideal to have it right in that root zone where obviously it's probably competing with the roots of the plant itself. Anyway, I'll turn the camera off now, I'll get this done, and I'll give you a bit of a before and after look of what we've got going on here. Okay, it's a bit of an off-kilter circle here, mainly because there's a little spider with its den over there that I don't want to disturb too much. It wasn't too impressed with me being here, and obviously that's why having gloves on is good, because if it did try and come out and give me a little nip, sun protection. Ideally probably a heavier duty leather glove would be better, but we've kind of got this cleared back now. I'm just going to go around the other side because there are some grass roots that I kind of want to get out, and then we'll be good to lay this down. Hello in there, Mr. Spider. Okay, so we've got the surround in, we've cleared it out. It's not the most level, but to be honest, I'm not that worried about it in this specific location because I don't really want to go too deep. As far as burying that, I'm going to move the soil back in around the edges. Then it'll just be a matter of putting in a bit of fertilizer, a bit of mulch. This will be good to go, and I'll see if it's as effective as the previous one. I definitely think doing this when you're putting the plant in the first place is much, much smarter, because you can basically use your shovel or a rake or something like that and really kind of till up that earth. You know, if you're going to put in some better manure or something like that, or whatever you're doing, do that all at the beginning, then drop your surround in, hammer it in place with some pegs. I think a couple of extra pegs wouldn't have gone astray here, but I only had the 4 left of that specific color, and just do it all at the beginning and save yourself time later, because this certainly, I probably would have taken me 5 minutes to do this in the first place. However, now I'm spending a good half an hour redoing it, cleaning it all up and everything like that, which is really totally unnecessary, particularly because I already had the surround, I'd cut it to length, everything like that. yeah, so lesson learnt on that one. And the next two little Australian citrus that I'm going to put in, which again, I think one is a sunrise lime and another one is a very, very inexpensive finger lime that I found for under 20 bucks. Those, they'll go straight in with a surround around them and I won't have to worry about redoing things. And hopefully, long term, the grass won't be too much of an issue inside the surround because that's a big aspect of the ease and kind of the value of doing this. If there's anything that you've seen that would do this job better, let me know in the comments because I'm quite interested. I feel like this is just a good way of kind of keeping the grass out a little bit because I'm pretty easygoing, but certainly I've got some family members who just tear their hair out when the grass gets in and spend hours and hours trying to pull the grass out from their garden edges. I don't want to be doing that because I'm lazy. So hopefully this is kind of a more future-proof solution. So yeah, see how we go.